Supadoodle gang, welcome back to I Didn't Ask for Yappuccino featuring your host Yash. For today's video, I wanted to give a little spiel about my story that I've been working on, but before we delve into that, I want to give you guys a bit of a intro. I hope this video won't be too long because I do not have the space for it. If you want to know why, it's because I caved and downloaded Love in Deepspace. Yep. I caved, I downloaded it, and I should have downloaded it earlier, honestly. And I know I mentioned in like, I don't know which video, but I remember saying like that I didn't really have a crush on Zayn. Now I do. I know you can throw tomatoes at me. It's very much like, okay, like you can't say that and look this way. I know, but yes, I do like him now. And I like all of them very much. And if they make a sixth new love interest, can't wait, can't wait. I think it's a really good game if you're into romance, and well, obviously, but if I'm being honest, there's not a lot of romance starting off. You're gonna have to do a lot of fighting, and it's a bunch of like extraneous stuff that like contributes to the entire storyline, which I had no clue about. I thought it was like just a romance game, you know what I mean? Like where you just have a bunch of boyfriends. Also, it's all of the guys at the same time. It's not like, oh, you can just choose one guy, which is what I thought. No, it's all five at the same time. And it low-key feels like I'm cheating on all of them, if I'm being real. But yeah, that's how it's been so far. Again with the so far. I'm so sorry, guys. Anyway, that's how it's been. I definitely recommend it if you're into writing and romance, just because I think the writing for the story is really good. And they use a lot of like very descriptive words in it. So it's inspired me to like really pay attention to those stuff and like take note of that and be like, okay, this is how good writing is. So I think it's good for that, and if you're into romance, and that's me in a nutshell. So it's perfect for me. And yeah, I'm really glad that I downloaded it, but I cannot yap for too long for this video because I do not have space. It takes up so much space, which is like the only caveat, I think. Anyways, I'm sorry if I'm a little like that, because I feel a little sick up in my nose. Where's Dr. Zane when you need him? I know he's a cardiac surgeon, but either way, he went to med school. He knows his stuff, you know what I mean? Where's Dr. Zane when you need him? Where's Dr. Zane? I know it's like the recoil is crazy, but yeah, I got a new laptop. So I've had my old laptop, the Dell Inspiron 14-inch, whatever the heck, for like 2-ish years, almost 3. It would have been 3 if it lasted up until like the last part of July, because I got my laptop as a birthday present. So it would have been like, it would have lasted for 3 years, which is not long. A laptop should last longer. But the issue was the hinges. And it's so stupid because like when a laptop gets manufactured, the hinges are plastic. Like what holds the top of the computer to the bottom of the computer for you to open it up is made from plastic when the entire thing is actually metal. So it's really stupid, and they recommend that you shouldn't open your computer to the side, which is what I did literally all this time. You should open it from the middle. So I've been doing that with my new computer, and it's so huge. It's a Lenovo. It's literally like humongous, but yeah, I'm getting used to it. I was a bit afraid. Firstly, when the hinges like broke, we took it to a computer repair shop, and they were like, yeah, it's gonna cost like $300 to repair it. And my dad was like, heck no, we might as well just buy a new computer. And they were very understanding with that. They're like, yeah, you should just buy a new computer, like, let's be real. So that's what, but before that, my dad was like, let me try to repair it myself. And he like bought all the parts, and my old computer still works. It's just the screen that doesn't work. Everything else was repaired fine, but it's a little like clanky. Like you can feel like that it's not the way it used to be, obviously, but it's like it feels like it's gonna fall apart any second. And it's very like just clanky, you know. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's that computer. I have a new computer, and when I was syncing my Chrome profile to my new computer, it saved my bookmarks from freshman year of high school, dude. I was like, oh my god, I never thought I'd see this again. But it was really like iExcel, Flipgrid, no red ink. Oh my god, I was like, oh my god, I never thought I'd see this again. And I was afraid that like for some reason my old bookmarks from my old computer, which is like the most important thing to me were not syncing to my new computer, and I was like, what the heck, but I eventually figured it out, and that's what happened with that. But before that, as we were like getting my computer repaired, me and my family went to Universal Studios, the main theme park attraction, instead of Epic, because they're very scared of roller coasters, and that's practically what the entire theme park centralizes around. And it was really fun. I recommend that you really find a good group of people to go with, because when you're waiting in line, which is literally the majority of the day because you have to wait in line for so long, especially if you're going to the Harry Potter ride, yeah, prepare to wait for 2 hours or 3 hours, in fact. So yeah, just like I was seeing people in line playing Heads Up, which is smart. I recommend doing that. It's just, it really depends on who you go with, and prepare to stay for the entire day. I recommend going early in the morning. Yeah, bring a ID, bring a valid ID. Let's get onto my spiel of a story situation going on here. So the reason I wanted to give my story that I've been working on for the past like 2 to 3 years a spiel is because I've never really sat down and like told you guys what my story is about. And if you're confused, I am really into writing. It's what I do as a hobby, and I do it simultaneously with YouTube, and yeah, it's just like really my thing. Well, actually, I don't know. I just do it for funsies, I guess. But it's been, I mentioned in my last video, it's definitely hard to discipline yourself to write. And sometimes it feels like work, sometimes homework, that type of situation. But I feel like my storyline has a lot of promise, and I want to share it with you guys today as a means to like promote myself a bit more. And if you're interested, you could take a look at the links in my description to read my story, and I'd really appreciate that. So to give you guys a bit of a spiel, I um read this book called The Secret Wife by Jill Paul when I was like, I think 15 or 16 years old. And I was being honest, if I'm being honest, my mother brought like a stack of books from her work that her boss was like, hey, if you have a daughter, give her these books to read. And I was like, I might as well get back into my reading groove because it's been a while since I picked up a book and really read it. And so I was just looking through the stacks of books that she brought, and I picked the ugliest cover, and it was that book. No offense, Jill Paul, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry, but the cover is just not, you know, not that I can really talk about it, but I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna choose this cover, read this story. And if I'm being honest, it was really hard to get into the groove of reading. I was like, I'm not comprehending any of this. But once I was locked in, I was locked in. And I just remember finishing that book and having such a huge like book hangover. I would just stare at the wall and just like, do you guys even get it? Like, do you guys even freaking get it? That was like literally me. And it just stunted me so much that it prompted me to write my story. And I remember just doing it mindlessly. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna dilly daddly of this thought that I've had in the past. It just inspired me to really go that extra mile and write my story. I remember for some reason the number 11, I was like 11 episodes or chapters into my story. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop because it's just for funsies. And yeah, I just, I'm gonna stop. But I was just like writing whatever. And then I started getting into reading webtoons, and this really constructed the way I started like writing my stories. And I read this webtoon, I won't say it because it wasn't good. In my opinion, the ending was very disappointing. And I was like, not that I'm trying to like put myself on this pedestal, like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. But the ending for that webtoon was so disappointing that I was just like, I feel like I have something to offer to the table. And it prompted me to continue writing my story. And ever since then, I've just continued writing. And I'm so happy that I found this hobby to latch onto, because I had to like part ways with my old dream that I've been dreaming on for like so many years. And it was just not pragmatic for me to continue doing it. I was just kind of like in this fantasy that it would just miraculously land on my lap and I would be given the chance to pursue my dream, but I would never really do anything with the things that I had to pursue my dream. And I was just like, yeah, let's be real. I need to part ways with this dream. And it was a pretty difficult journey, and I was really lost for a while. Just, I didn't know what to do. I would compare myself to kids in my class who were like privileged enough to like take classes for like dancing, this, that, do sports, extracurriculars. It was just a bunch of facets, and I didn't have the privilege to do that. And I was just like, what can I do? I don't know what to do. And it really just came to me unexpectedly, this like hobby of mine, and it occupies such a lot of my time, but in a good way, and I really like that. And even if it's like not my purpose, which I don't know, I've had a lot of hurdles with that, and I explained that in my last video. It's something that I'm doing right now, and it's something that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? I'm giving it a shot, and that's something. And that, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining well. I went over this in my head so many times, but like really actually saying it is like beep bop boop, beep bop bop bop. You get it? Anyway, so after reading the webtoon, the way my story is constructed is not like a regular book. I don't know what prompted me to kind of write it in a scripted version. I think it was because I was taking acting in high school to get that theater requirement, and I was made to write a script for like a group collaboration that I was doing with for a class assignment, and we just kind of like freestyled the script. So that's how I did it when I was mindlessly writing. But after I started reading webtoons and they would incorporate things such as narration and inner thoughts, I implemented that into my story. So it's kind of like my iteration of a script in a sense, but it's still comprehensible in my opinion. It's just not the way an industry script for like a movie should be. And it's like it doesn't need to be that serious. I remember I published like when I was first writing this story and I was like editing it, I published it on a platform known as Writers Cafe, which is not my main platform, but I posted it there, and I remember this critic went ham on me. They're just like, this is nothing. You would never get an editor to or a publisher to take your story because you're not adhering to like the conventional writing this and that. And I was just like, geez, it's not like I get what he like what the critic meant. They probably came from a nice place, but they were so they were insulting me left and right abrasively, and I was just like, it was so unsolicited. I know it's like a public platform, so it's like you're gonna get unsolicited advice regardless, but it was just crazy, and I was like, okay. And moving on, I'm still gonna write my story this way, but I definitely revamped it a little bit to be more comprehensible from what they said, but I don't really take much of their advice. I'm doing my own thing, you know what I mean? No, I'm doing my own thing. But as I said, it's still comprehensible in my opinion, so you should be able to read it fine. And initially, I remember mentioning like way back when in like I don't know which YouTube video, but I wanted to make my story into a webtoon, but I just severely lacked the artistic skills to make that happen. So I opted for just writing my scripts, my iteration of the scripts, and publishing it on platforms such as Wattpad, which is like my main platform at the moment. I still post on Writers Cafe, but I think I'm gonna archive all my stuff there because the format on Wattpad is fine enough for anybody to read. But anyway, on to my story after explaining all that stuff. Also, the reason I want to promote it a lot more is because I get a lot of scammers on Wattpad that say they're interested in my work, but they just want to like scam me of my money to like promote it and whatnot. And I just need a real person because it's literally driving me crazy anytime I go to my notifications and it's just like another scammer. And I'm like, when is a real person gonna interact with my stuff? So I hope that by making this video, it gets to the audience that I want it to really get to. So anyways, my story is a romance, slice of life, kind of mystery, fantasy, but the main plot is romance. Honestly, chapters 1 through 30 are not really that romancy. It's more slice of life because you need that background context. But where we're off now, it's starting to get very romancy. Also, trigger warning, I forgot to mention this. If you're very, not good with like sensitive subjects such as homophobia, abandonment, hardship, death, things of that sort, and like tragedy and adversity, I would probably not watch the rest of this video. And yeah, just kick off here. Thank you so much for watching. The story centralizes around my main character, Kalista Thakur. She's 28 years old. She's Indian, an accountant, and her story starts out in New Jersey. Heck yeah, you know. I don't know if it's like, I'm not gonna make it like too historically accurate. Not historically, like accurate to like New Jersey setting. I think it's just New Jersey, you know, like it's set in New Jersey. And when she was 23, as she was about to move out of her parents' house, she sat down with her brother sat down with her, his name is Raymond, and explained that he was preparing to come out to their parents. Now, their parents are very conservative, and obviously they wouldn't be okay with him coming out. But he was like, I'm prepared. If I get kicked out, I have people to lean on to go about my life and it's gonna be okay, but I can't hold this in any longer and I need to tell my truth. And she was like okay with it. It was very emotional, but she was like, definitely go for it. And yeah, you should speak your truth. Goes by, and obviously, as predicted, the parents do not accept Raymond with welcome arms and berate him, insult him, and kick him out of the house. As all of this went down, Callista just shut down and was in her room having a meltdown, unable to intervene, and that moment really harbored a lot of guilt within herself. Her brother promised that after getting kicked out that he would move in with her since she was already moving out. So as she was packing all her belongings and moving out, she made the definitive decision to cut ties with her parents. They always kind of grew up not really in agreement with each other. There wasn't a lot of harmony within the house, a lot of disagreement in beliefs and whatnot, and kicking her brother out was the straw that broke the camel's back. As Calista moves out of her house and into her new apartment, she's 23, has started her new job as being an accountant to pay off student loans and, start her career and whatnot. And she anticipates that Raymond reach out to her. She's texted him, hey, where are you? Are you okay? Where did you spend the night? Because he got kicked out of the house, right? And he doesn't respond. And she continues to reach out to him, and he just doesn't respond, and she loses hope. Months go by, and she's developed a bit of an alcohol addiction to cope with the pain. She gets a notice on her front door after coming out back from a long and laborious day of work that she needs to pay rent. And she doesn't have the money to pay rent because tuition, all these other bills and expenses to care for, and she's immediately hit with the stress that she needs to find a new place to move into. Now, she does a lot of searching and listings for a bunch of places to move into, and she eventually finds someone looking for a roommate, reaches out to them, and miraculously, she gets a call back from Tallulah Faletulu. She is half Samoan, half Irish, and she's has that Samoan physique, very muscular, tattoos on practically every inch of her body except her face, piercings, bright pink curly hair. And as intimidating and punky as she looks, she's a teddy bear. And Calista meets her for the first time in a cafe, and the two of them warm up to each other, and Tallulah agrees to take Calista in as her roommate. Now, 5 years later, the two become besties, literal besties. Tallulah helped Calista with her pain and whatnot, but after 5 years, Raymond never reached back out to Calista. We don't know what happened to him. Now, Tallulah and Calista are very adventurous, like to go on a bunch of outings, more Tallulah, and she's kind of encouraging Calista to follow her footsteps and whatnot. And on an outing on a weekend, Tallulah and Calista visit a fortune-telling site. And Tallulah gets her fortune told by a very ominous psychic and receptionist lady who kind of guides them to their stuff and whatnot. And as they leave, the front desk lady hands Calista, not Tallulah, Calista, a pamphlet. And that's it. They leave the place and have a girls' night. As they have their little girls' night, Tallulah is very intrigued by the pamphlet and is like, "Hey, girl, Calista, why don't we do a little ritual from the pamphlet?" Because it's a bit of an affirmation pamphlet. She read through it and was like, "Okay, I'm really into this stuff." She's very spiritual, and Calista, she's very skeptical. She's like, "Okay, let's just do it." They hold hands and they chant the phrase, "Let time take its course," 5 times. And as this happens, nothing happens for a couple seconds, and then a huge whirlwind enters Tallulah's room. The candles that she lit up for the ceremony fade out, and her room is spiraling with all her objects in the air. She's in disbelief, aghast, shocked, disconcerted, and a portal pops in from the middle of the room. She is literally like, what the heck? How is this even happening in front of my very eyes? And she calls for Calista because Calista was watching her skincare mask off in the bathroom, and she's just like, "Oh, it's probably just a bug, Tallulah, like, chill." But Tallulah's continuing to call, "Calista, Calista, come here!" Calista barges in, and she's a little infuriated by Tallulah's impatience. But then she understands after the whirlwind in the room. She's like, what the heck is going on? And she sees the portal in the middle of the room, and out enters a man. And the both of them are in shock. How the heck is this happening? The man, after he, you know, screams at the girls and is like, what the hell is going on? How did I get here? Blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Eventually reveals that he is from 1967. His name is Marvin Daikon. Now, you're probably wondering, why the hell is a random man? How the hell did a random man time travel into these girls' room? On the psychic fortune-telling session, the psychic tells Tallulah that Callista and her would endure a life-changing event with a man. And the two of them are confused because they're not really affiliated with any sorts of men. But here comes Marvin suddenly out of the blue, and it all clicks for Tallulah. She tells Callista it must be our fortune, this life-changing event that's going on. I mean, how the heck did a man from 1967 miraculously time travel in our room from a ceremony? How did this happen? They all debrief. It starts out rocky with the two of them getting along together, especially Callista and Marvin. They do not really like each other at the start, but then eventually start warming up to each other. They get to the bottom and they're like, why are you here? Why were you sent here? They visit the fortune-telling site again, and the psychics debrief that Marvin was sent to 2023, because that's when I first wrote the story, was sent in 2023 to fulfill something that he was destined to do in his previous life but was unable to do. So he lived a very unfulfilling life, and it all prompted from the interaction of one person just completely ruining everything for him. And they solve that issue and realize that he needs to fulfill this goal. And I will stop off there. He needs to fulfill a goal. He's living with Tallulah and Callista and warming up to the two of them to become friends. They were like, okay, I guess we gotta take in this random guy. They warm up to him, realize he's a pretty good guy, and know that whatever tragedy unfolded in his previous life, the universe gave him a new chance to start things over and live the life of his fulfillment, if that makes sense. I'm not even like speaking. I don't know if I'm explaining things well enough, but he has a goal to fulfill. And if you're wondering what that goal is, it has to do with love. And I'll leave off there. I hope that I explained well enough and that it sounds intriguing enough. If you're interested to take a look, I would really appreciate it if you guys could take a look at the links in my description, because my story is posted on Wattpad. I will disclaim that chapters 1 through 32 are a bit lackluster, I guess, when it comes to like writing, because I just kind of really perfected, like, not really perfected, but got into the groove of really showing, not telling. So it might not be that prominent in chapters 1 through 32, but this 33rd chapter, it is what prompted me to make this video, because it's where the romance starts bubbling and where my writing, I think, is a lot better when it comes to showing and not telling. If I'm being honest, I think telling is still important in a story, but showing should definitely be the superstar of it. And I think I'm starting to get into the groove of that. I have a lot more chapters to practice, but just to disclaim, chapters 1 through 32 are a bit of rough drafts. They're still comprehensible, and they're still the way my story is going to be. Like, that's solidified in the plot, but the stage directions might not be too evocative to you, but I hope that it's engaging nonetheless. Take a look at it if you're interested in romance, slice of life, mystery, fantasy, kind of like relationship, like solving hardships and whatnot and getting through that. There's a lot of obstacles that these trio face. I'll put up some pictures here of my characters, I think, as I edit through this video. 24 minutes in, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope I, enticed you enough to take a look at my videos, take a look at my story. And I have 2 other stories, hopelessly yours and only one for me. They're still on my profile, but they are rough drafts. Just be aware of that. Take a look-see-loo at that if you want to, but I would appreciate it if you guys could just focus on In Another Lifetime at the moment. And yeah. In my description, not only are there links to my stories, but links to petitions you all can sign for worldly conflicts that are happening. Lots of things are happening. We are living in very dire times at the moment. I don't know if you guys know about the whole Alligator Alcatraz thing, it's a lot, and my heart goes out to anybody that is struggling with those things and have been affected. Let me know ways in which I can continue advocating for that. I will leave a petition down below about signing to stop Alligator Alcatraz because it is happening in the Florida Everglades, and it's very bad for the ecosystem there and bad for the people, obviously. So take a look at that and let me know other ways in which I can continue advocating. Feel free to use my platform to just speak out about issues. I want to raise awareness about that. And I hope you all enjoyed watching. I will continue to make my regular content in the next videos, but I wanted to make this video to talk about my story and about other things, which I hope you all enjoyed and that I explained well enough. I'm so, like, I don't know if I'm explaining well enough. It's just like, I sound so eloquent in my mind, and then I actually put on the camera and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Bye. Have a good day.